I've lost a good friend.
He was a gentleman. He was always kind.
The things when you think about Dr. Lytton were his, boundless energy, energy which would put a resident to shame, even well into his 60s, and his surgical fearlessness, just an absolutely fearless surgeon, afraid of nothing. But the word I thought that best characterized him was grace, just a guy who watched out for everything and everyone, kind, thoughtful, and just a great leader.
He was friendly, he was approachable. I never saw him dress anybody down in a nasty or negative way. We did a lot of fun things together. We skied together. We did some mountain climbing together. He was a very physically active guy who had a great zest for life.
He encouraged the staff and the residents to think creatively, to work hard, to be honest, to have integrity, to be motivated by what's best for patients. And for that, he led by example. He was an amazing physician, surgeon, department chair, educator, and leader.
He carried himself with an elegant authority, but he was always gracious with his time, his teaching, and his advice.
The first thing that comes to mind was that he was the true Renaissance man. Not only was he a tremendous surgeon and teacher, but he was so well versed in so many fields. He loved the arts, he was well read, and he could discuss virtually anything with you.
You meet very few people like him from the onset. He was tall, he was stately, he was proper, he was friendly. He was the type of person you meet once or twice in your lifetime. Well, first of all, he could do anything surgically. He was fearless.
After a surgical career of my own of over 50 years, I think that he's the best surgeon I ever operated with. I was fortunate to be with him when we did the first kidney transplant at Yale, and he was 45 at the time, and he sold his competence to the powers that be, and I'm not sure what he did to hone his skills, because he hadn't been doing that sort of surgery on a regular basis, but he did it and made it look like he'd been doing it every day.
He was influential in, one, setting up with the nephrologist the first dialysis center in Connecticut. He brought various programs, not inventing them, but programs that people had done in other places and were just in their infancy, such as percutaneous nephrolithotomy. A lot of the bowel work which is done today for bladder replacement surgery, Bernie was one of the early people in fostering it.
I especially remember the first time I did a ureteral chalacostomy and had him assisting me, which gave me the confidence I needed to do that difficult operation.
He was so meticulous as a surgeon, and he truly was one of the finest surgeons I think I've ever seen.
We went together, flew to Detroit and watched one of the original persons who started robotic surgery at the time. So he was always interested, even though he had retired or stopped practicing. He was always very inquisitive, very wanting to know what things were going on in urology.
I came out to Mulberry Point in Guilford, which was the site of so many of Dr. Lytton's famous resident summer picnics, and it just seemed like a fitting place to pay tribute because of the fond memories.
They respected him. They considered him a friend. I don't think any of them would have gone in there and say, "Hi, Dr. Lytton." It'd be, "Hey, Bernie, I got this problem."
As the first female in the program, visiting professors of a certain ilk, might I say, were quite inappropriate. He took one of them aside privately, chastised him, and withheld his honorarium. In my experience in the early 1980s, this was singular in the support given trainees. He had our backs always.
One of the nurses came to me and said, "Dr. Krause, Dr. Lytton's on the phone, and he doesn't sound very happy." So I picked up the phone, and it was Dr. Lytton. He said, "Krause, where are you?" And I said, "Dr. Lytton," I said, I'm stuck. I'm stuck making rounds. I said, every room we walk into is a disaster, and they're all your patients." Well, he said, "Okay, do what you got to do and come up when you can." You know, and that's just the kind of guy he was. You know, I mean, he didn't pull rank, not ever.
And he worked with an economy of motion that we all tried to imitate. Whenever we had a difficult clinical patient, not only would we ask ourselves, what would Dr. Lytton do? But we'd also ask, how would Dr. Lytton do it? And that always seemed to be the right answer.
He was pioneering continent diversions while I was at Yale, and I can still hear his voice when I do those cases now saying, "Oh, take a little bit of mucosa and a lot of serosa, a little bit of mucosa, a lot of serosa." His voice still rings in my ears even now, almost 40 years later after I trained with him.
The last thing you wanted to do was disappoint Dr. Lytton. And if you did, it didn't happen again. You just did it once. And he didn't have to tell you, he didn't have to raise his voice at you, he didn't have to reprimand you. You just knew if you did something wrong. And it just didn't happen again.
And then we had a case to do, and it was his case, and I was to help him. And it started off the case with him asking me for instructions about a whole lot of things. But by the end of the case, he was saying stuff like, "You know, Krause, if you were a better cameraman, I'd be able to get this done a lot quicker." That was, yeah. I guess he was funny.
With a twinkle in his eyes, he made a gentle joke, with a broad, infectious smile when he was amused by a comment or a situation. I will always remember that smile, warm, genuine, never used to chide or with cynicism.
But Dr. Lytton could also at times be a bit of the absent-minded professor, and that was part of his beauty. I fondly remember the time, and this was well before cell phones, when I was at home in my apartment just relaxing one evening, and he calls me up at home and says, Fred, where are you? I said, "Dr. Lytton, I'm at home, you called me here." Oh yeah, well, come down and do a case with me."
Did you pull any pranks on Dr. Lytton?
None that I wish to tell you.
In one of my first surgeries with him, deep in a bloody and well-adhesed pelvis, I found a structure he had been searching for 5 minutes before he did. His response? "Well, Vito, even a blind squirrel comes across a nut now and again."
Probably, other than my father, the most influential male person in my life.
But I think probably the most important thing he taught me was that you could lead a division and be personal and not have to sit on a throne.
I kept in very close touch with him during my whole career. I feel exquisitely indebted to him for what I did and what I became. And I think that you will hear that sentiment echoed by anybody who was in my position.
I cannot imagine having a better urologic training than I had under his direction, nor a better personal relationship with the program director than I had with him. He leaves behind a tremendous legacy.
I wish you were here to hear these words. I can't thank you enough for everything that you ever did for the Yale University Urology Department, its residency program, and for my career.
I also want to thank his family. Thank you for sharing him with us. That was a special gift that has a lasting impact that will always be remembered.
In the military, it is said that you die twice, the first time when you draw your last breath, and the second when the last person on earth says your name for the last time. Today, we show that the world will continue to say the name of Bernard Lytton for many, many years to come.
God bless him, and may his memory be a blessing for us all.